You already read the title, so let's just get this over with. Here are the 5 worst piles of garbage I saw in the year 2023. Number 5. Fast X. When will this franchise just die already? This film is literally adding nothing original to this franchise and just recycles the same plot we saw in the previous 3 entries. This bad guy has a vendetta against the Fast family because of something they did to him in the past and wants revenge. Jason Momoa was really trying here, but he mostly came off as a Heath Ledger Joker knockoff than anything else. The action sequences in this film are way more ridiculous this time and just completely implausible to the point where it seems like the main characters are invincible. This film is nothing more than a $200 million B-action film to a franchise that should have ended 8 years ago. Number 4. The Expendables 4. They really should have just ended it after 3. This movie is boring, badly paced, horribly acted, and the action scenes aren't even as memorable as the previous entries. The camera work is really bad, especially in the hand-to-hand combat scenes. The new co-stars they get in to fill in the void of the previous Expendables crew gave really bland performances, especially from Megan Fox. I have no idea who in their right mind thought it was a good idea to greenlight this film, because this film felt more like a Fast and Furious spin-off than it did a continuation of the Expendables franchise. I hope to God they never make a 5th one. Just stop it here. You already overstayed your welcome at this point. Number 3. Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. I don't care if I get shit for this, but I absolutely despise this film, and it was by far the worst film in the series. The film ruins Indy by making him some old boomer, get off my lawn stereotype, and he barely has the adventurous spirit that Indy had in the previous films. I understand that Ford is now aging up, but it's still no excuse to set back the character spirit. The action scenes are not very memorable and don't have that grasp that the previous films had. Indy's goddaughter in this film, Helena, played by Phoebe Waller-Bridge, was annoying as hell, and she infuriated the hell out of me every time she was on screen. Especially her companion, Teddy, who was annoying as hell too. Not only that, this film didn't even feel like they had Indy in the forefront as the protagonist, and they sidelined him to focus more on Helena, who I didn't care for. I don't see why I should care about Helena when she constantly treats Indy like shit and acts like a know-it-all obnoxious bitch. To be honest, I would rather watch Kingdom of the Crystal Skull again than watch this, and say what you will about Shia LaBeouf's character, Mull Williams, but at least he didn't sideline Indy and treated him like garbage most of the time, unlike Helena. Just when I thought that Kathleen Kennedy didn't hinder my love for Star Wars enough, she decides to hinder my love for the Indiana Jones franchise. Like, what more can you take from me, woman? I'm honestly so confused as to how this movie turned out as badly as it did, because it was directed by James Mangold, who had Logan go out on a high note with his final solo film. Like, what happened here? Anyways, not only is Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny the 3rd worst film I saw in the year 2023, it is also the worst film in the Indiana Jones franchise, period. Number 2. The Flash. Well, after decades in development hell, we finally got the Flash film. Like, seriously, have you guys looked into the development history of the Flash and how many directors passed on it? Like, this film got passed on by more guys than a Filipino hooker. But joking aside, I absolutely despise this film and how it horribly botched the Flashpoint storyline from the comics. On further note, why would you adapt the Flashpoint storyline for the first Flash film? That just doesn't make any sense. That would be like adapting The Dark Knight Returns for the first Batman film. Ezra Miller's performance as the alternate version of Barry that he teams up with was annoying as hell, and he constantly got on my nerves because he just wouldn't shut up. In fact, the CGI used to put both him and Barry at the same scenes together was really unpolished at times. And speaking of visual effects, the CGI in this film was absolutely horrible, and it gave the 2017 Justice League CGI a run for its money. I actually have a theory that the reason why the CGI in this film was so bad was because all of the money that was supposed to go to the VFX budget went towards Ezra Miller's lawyers. The first hour of this film was really boring as hell, and the opening action sequence with the Justice League felt like it was alluding to Ezra Miller's real-life crimes because there's literally a scene where he puts a baby in a microwave. The film shamelessly shoves in cameos of characters from other previous DC films that serve no other purpose to the plot or story other than just shameless fan service, including that god-awful cameo featuring Nick Cage as Superman. Not even General Zod returning in this film did it for me, because the final fight scene between his army and the main characters was just a 20-minute long boring CGI fight scene that was completely mindless and sloppy. The ending of this movie also made absolutely no sense, and let me explain why I think that. So in the end, Barry corrects the entire timeline and allows his mother to die because that sacrifice is needed to bring the timeline back together. But he also alters the timeline again by changing the layout of an aisle at a supermarket to prove his father's innocence and get him out of prison. But wouldn't him going back in time to prove his father's innocence also cause just as much damage to the timeline? Forget it. If this movie doesn't care, then why should I? The only redeeming things I can say about this film are Michael Keaton as Batman and Sasha Calle as Supergirl. I thought Keaton still kicked ass as Batman, but the scene where he gets introduced where he fights both Flashes in the kitchen was just stupid. Sasha was really good as Supergirl, but it's a shame we'll never get to see her shine as the Woman of Steel again, knowing James Gunn will never have her return in the DCU. Now, before I get into my number one worst pick of 2023, here are a few dishonorable mentions that I just gotta get out of the way. Children of the Corn. Who in their right mind thought it was a good idea to do a remake of a classic? But then again, this is Hollywood we're talking about, so that's to be expected. Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. An absolutely distasteful horror parody, and I can't for the life of me understand why it's getting a sequel. The Exorcist Believer. This film is an insult to the Exorcist franchise, and after seeing this and Halloween Ends, David Gordon Green must never be allowed to write and direct another horror legacy sequel ever again. And finally, my number one pick of the worst film of 2023 is Skinamarink. No other movie this year has got me more bored, infuriated, and baffled as this pile of garbage did. I will never understand for the life of me how this film has garnered so much praise online. Like, it's literally nothing but long and boring shots of corners, walls, corridors, etc. Like, what is so scary about that? Like, I've seen a lot of terrible horror films this year, but this film takes the crown. Like, literally nothing happens in this film 90% of the time. You wait for nothing to happen, you experience nothing happening, and it's just static shots of rooms and corridors with nothing in it. Apparently, this is the new age of horror films that we have to experience. Like, why are there so many people praising it online like it's the second coming of Jesus or something? I will never know. So yeah, Skinamarink is the most boring and by far the worst film I have ever seen in the year 2023. Welp, that about does it. I would like to thank you so much for watching this if you made it this far. Let me know in the comment section below what you thought were the worst stinkers of 2023 were, and I'll see you guys next time. Don't forget to click that like button and subscribe. Peace.